The majority doesn't need our votes. They just want a bipartisan shortcut around procedural hurdles they can actually clear on their own. And they want that shortcut so they can pivot right back to partisan spending as fast as possible. They want a bipartisan shortcut to get right back to more partisan hardball. And Republicans have spent 2.5 months, this is no surprise, 2.5 months ago, explaining that this is the way they needed to go forward on the debt ceiling. This unified Democratic government is having trouble governing. They couldn't even pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which the president negotiated and the Speaker of the House promised would pass last week. The majority needs to stop sleepwalking toward yet another preventable crisis. Democrats need to tackle the debt limit. We gave them a roadmap and 3 months' notice. I suggest that our colleagues get moving. Now, on an obviously related matter, speaking of Democrats' reckless taxing and spending, this unified government is behind closed doors, brainstorming ways to make inflation even more painful for American families. Their next reckless taxing and spending spree is packed with radical left-wing policies and the biggest tax hike on the American people in half a century. So far, the bill is more than 2,400 pages long, but it can be summarized in just 4 words: hurts families and helps China. Hurts families and helps China. Wasting trillions and trillions of dollars on socialism would be a bad idea any day, but it's a uniquely bad idea at a time when American families are already being hammered by inflation and soaring costs. The government's own data continue to indicate that the historic and painful inflation that began to take hold of our economy this spring isn't going anywhere anytime soon. The chairman of the Federal Reserve acknowledged last week that rising prices have become an increasingly broad and structural problem. Last week, the Commerce Department reported that inflation has continued to rise faster than at any time since 1991. The Democrats' inflation is so bad that even though the average American worker has gotten a multiple percentage point pay raise over the last year, their actual purchasing power has actually been cut. Their paychecks have gone up, but their buying power has gone down. Wholesale inflation just marked the steepest 12-month jump on record. Even dollar stores are having to raise their prices. Just ask any American family about the last few trips to the supermarket, the gas station, or the toy store. Heaven forbid if they've had to participate in the housing market or the auto market anytime lately. And the Democrats are uniting around yet another multi-trillion-dollar taxing and spending spree. I guess our colleagues think they can inflate their way out of inflation. That is going to be an extraordinarily painful experiment for the middle-class families of our country.
Order, the leadership time is reserved. Morning business is closed. Under the previous order, the Senate will resume consideration of the House message to accompany S-1301, which the court will report.